Hello, my name is Janet and I'm a physiotherapist with the Community Physiotherapy team. The title of my talk is To Move or Not to Move? That is the question. And you won't, I'm sure, be surprised that the answer from a physiotherapist is generally to move. What I hope to do in this talk is to give you some advice on how to keep the people in your care moving, and also some advice to help you decide when you might need to refer for physiotherapy. The first question we need to answer is why? Why should you encourage the people in your care to move? Firstly, and in my view most importantly, people should keep moving because it retains function and independence, and this can help keep their sense of well-being high. Secondly, moving can help slow deterioration and may in fact delay transfer from a residential home to a nursing home if a person retains some function. Thirdly, a person who can move and keep some independence makes your job as a carer easier. The more function someone has, the less you have to do for them. The second question to be answered is what should you move? Well, there is an easy answer to this question. Think of your own body. If you can move this part of your body, then the resident should be able to move that part of their body also. If they can't move it independently, then you, as carers, need to help them move it. Just once a day, encourage residents to move each of their joints through its own available range. You can demonstrate the movements and encourage the resident to copy you. You could do this with each individual in their room whilst helping them to dress. Alternatively, you could do this in a group. For more activity, please look at the video the Community Physiotherapy team has put together for an exercise session. Many residents will need walking aids to mobilise safely. The first thing to remember is that everyone who needs a walking aid should have their own walking aid. They shouldn't really be borrowing them from other residents. So if you feel someone needs a walking aid, please refer to our team. Once the resident has an aid, it needs to be checked regularly, and if you notice anything that is broken, the aid needs replacing. The part of the aid that needs particular attention is the rubber stopper on the bottom, also known as a ferrule. Ferrules need to be in good condition. The ferrules have grooves on them, and they work a bit like tyres on cars. If a tyre wears thin, then the car is likely to slip and skid, and it is exactly the same with ferrules. If the ferrule is worn smooth, or worse, actually broken through, then the walking aid is likely to slip on the floor. This is particularly so in care homes, as for hygiene reasons the flooring tends to be laminated or lino. New ferrules can be obtained from your local clinic. I will now talk about residents who are mobile but tend to fall. If a resident falls, they really should be referred for physiotherapy. If the falls are infrequent, then a referral to our team is appropriate. But if the falls are occurring more than once a week, then a referral to IUCT is indicated. Ultimately, it is not always possible to prevent people from falling. In this case, purchasing hip protectors for people might prove useful to prevent hip fractures. If physiotherapy is indicated, it is likely that a tailored exercise program will be provided, and our team would appreciate your help in helping the residents to carry out these exercises. The next group of residents I want to talk about are those who either can't or won't move. It's a good idea to understand the level of mobility your residents have when they come into the home. You will then be better placed to recognise when a change has taken place. If they start to move less than initially, try encouraging them to move more. If this doesn't work, please refer for physiotherapy. Here are some tips for helping residents to move. Some people struggle to process instructions. This is particularly true of people with Parkinson's disease or the various dementias. Instructions need to be simple and clear, and plenty of time given for residents to follow them. If there is more than one of you assisting a resident, then decide beforehand who is giving the instructions. If possible, a quiet environment is also helpful. Residents often struggle to get out of a chair, and this is often because the resident is not in the correct position in the first place. Before you even attempt to get the person to stand, you need to get the person to move their bottom to the front of the chair. They then need to lean forward as far as possible and place their hands on the arms of the chair. When asking the resident to lean forward, I often use the phrase nose over toes. This gives you some idea of how far the person needs to lean forward to make standing up successful. The person then needs to push with their hands and through their legs to hopefully achieve a standing position. You as carers are obviously able to assist them in the way your manual handling training has taught you. Any amount of moving a resident does is good, even if it is just standing for a short period. Standing helps maintain bone strength and muscle power, as well as helping with the urinary system and pressure care. There is, however, one important circumstance in which a resident should not be made to stand, and that is if they are unable to put any weight through their legs. In this situation, a hoist is the only manual handling aid which is appropriate to use. Finally, I would like to talk to you about contractures. A contracture is when a joint won't move even if someone other than the person is trying to move it. This situation is caused by lack of movement, which leads to the structures around the joint changing. So in the case of a hand, which tends to stick with the fingers bent, the structures on the inside of the joints have shortened and the structures on the outside of the joint have lengthened. Prevention is always better than a cure, and this is especially true with contractures because once they have occurred, there is no cure. Referring someone for physiotherapy when a contracture has occurred is of no use. We are no more able to move the joint than you are. I said earlier that it is a good idea to know how the residents can move. This includes their joints. As previously stated, it is a good idea to encourage residents to move their joints on a daily basis. Commonly, it is hands, hips, and knees that develop contractures. Getting a resident to stand up straight regularly will help prevent hips and knees from developing contractures. Encouraging residents to sit with their knees outstretched also helps prevent contractures. Hands and fingers are very prone to contractures when people have suffered a stroke or are in late-stage dementia. Palm protectors are useful in preventing contractures from getting worse, and they stop damage to the palm of the hand from fingernails. I hope that you have enjoyed the presentation, and if you have any questions about any of your residents, please contact members of the community physiotherapy team by using the details on the screen. Thank you for listening.